Put yourself out there. Get into new rooms. Get into new circles. And it doesn't have to cost you anything. Only thing that it's going to cost you is that pride, that ego, right? So get into new rooms. God is saying get into new rooms. He's opening doors for you, but you keep trying to go through the old doors. You keep going backwards instead of running towards what God is already showing you. But it's because you're stuck in that traumatic survival mindset. Your trauma has dimmed you. Now it's time for you to evolve out of that trauma, and you only evolve by doing something different. It doesn't make any sense to go backwards. Get out of those environments. You know who you are. You know what God has been telling you. Yes, that person needs to be cut off. No, do not return. I don't care how many times they apologize. Do not go back to that environment. You already know that environment has evil energy there. You know that environment is waiting for you to slip. It's no point in you going there. You have nothing else to prove to and in that environment. Your work is to be done somewhere else. Genesis 12, 1 through 2, where God tells Abram to leave his country for a new land, promising to make him a great nation, bless him, and make his name great. Okay, so for this video, we're going to be talking about why you are stuck in survival mode and why you're still thriving in chaos and how that is holding you back. So basically, I woke up and realized that I was still thriving in chaos. Like, I was allowing chaos and survival mindset and survivor's guilt to fuel me. I wondered why I kept getting into the same situations over and over and over again, whether it be with friends, family, etc. And it's because I hadn't established boundaries, but it was because I was still operating off of an old identity that I'd already leveled up from. Nobody really talks about trauma and how it cripples you and distorts your perception long term. So, for example, you could go through something one time. Like, for example, I'm going to use the easiest thing. Getting cheated on by a man, right? So you could get cheated on once, and from that point forward, your brain is automatically wired to be like your brain is already wired to not trust people. You already are under the impression that men cheat, right? Because you've experienced it one time. And that's what I mean by once you experience trauma one time, it's like you carry it like a badge until you realize and become aware enough to understand that it's actually crippling you. That is the only time when I feel like it'll change. Like, I woke up and realized I was still living a life that was driven by trauma and survival mode. And it was just in the small things that I did. For example, continuing to forgive people after they had already showed me who they were. Like, I already knew who they were the first time, but because I had already had deep childhood wounds where I was a people pleaser and I was overly empathetic, and it's just a lot. But it was really like I allowed that identity to follow me into my new life, and that was why I couldn't create the new identity. So you have to really be okay with, and this message is for somebody. This message is for somebody because I wrote it down in my notes and it was like a download. Like, this message is for somebody that is struggling right now with being in survival mode and feeling like you want to level up, but you're surrounded by so much chaos. And I just have to tell you that you are putting yourself in those situations. You can no longer operate in the identity where you were willfully putting yourself below others, or you were putting others above yourself, because that identity is not going to work with where you're trying to go. And manifestation is simply waking up, setting your intentions, being intentional. With that comes more intentional habits. And with those more intentional habits, right, you're going to develop a new identity, because you're not even going to go to places you used to go. You're not going to hang with the people you used to hang with. You're not going to want to do the things you used to do. You're going to want new experiences. And that's one thing. New experiences are so important only because you cannot think outside of what you've already been exposed to. And that is one reason why I am an advocate for social media, but then again, it gets sticky, because you want to be able to breathe the air and experience these things for yourself. Raise your frequency, because you're being exposed to more beautiful things in life, different levels in life, the different that you want to experience, beautiful places, beautiful countries. Like, one of my things, I want to go to Greece. Like, I am going to go to Santorini, Greece, right? But it took social media for me to see, wow, that place is beautiful. Like, I really want to be there. But what I really mean is, about social media, when I saw other women that looked like me that were winning, and they were explaining to people how they were winning, I got curious. That is literally the reason why I became an entrepreneur, because I saw that it was so possible, because I saw people in my demographic that walked the same. I heard a lot of stories about, I seen people in my same demographic. You know, entrepreneurs, they tell their story very often. Like, for example, Myron Golden. Like, that was somebody I really, really looked up to, you know, as an entrepreneur when I was first starting out. So you have to allow yourself the time and the space to expose yourself to different levels in life, to different experiences in life. Like that Drake song that's like No New Friends. That, as I'm growing and maturing and evolving, I'm understanding that that is the furthest thing from the truth. Because you want new friends, you want new locations, you want new connections, you want new experiences. Because how else are you supposed to grow? How else are you supposed to bloom like a flower, right? Because when you plant the seed, the flower doesn't grow the same day. You plant the seed, you give it exposure to sun, you give it water, etc. You have to feed that soil in order for the flower to grow. So you have to feed your soil. And if what you were feeding to your soil right now was going to work, it would already be working. But it's because you haven't done an audit. You need to audit your circle. You need to audit your habits. You need to audit your intentions and what are you focused on daily? Are you focused on the right stuff? Like in real life. And I'm not talking about posting on social media. I'm talking about in your real life. Are you waking up and setting your intentions, right? Are you waking up and telling God that you love him and thank you so much for this life? Are you being grateful? Because gratitude is really an underrated growth strategy. And because what gratitude does is it places you in a high frequency. So once you're in a high frequency, it's going to be hard for you to come down. It's like the same feeling you get when your kid, you know, you're super proud of your kid, or they give you a hug or a kiss. It's like that little fuzzy feeling. You want to be at that frequency all the time. And sometimes with life's challenges, it's hard to be in that frequency, but that's why it's so important to have gratitude. Because once you start shifting your perspective from what you lack to what you actually already have and what you're grateful for, it changes your frequency. But you cannot get stuck in. Another thing is we're going to talk about is survivor's guilt. People get stuck feeling like because they're leveling up, I was doing the same thing, making excuses, saying, oh, I'm sorry that I didn't do this, maybe we can do this, knowing that was something that I was going to keep on pushing back, because it was no longer in alignment with what I was trying to do and where my focus was headed. Like, you cannot, if you want to be the 1%, you literally have to do what the 1% does. And I'm not even trying to be extreme as far as the 1%, but I'm trying to be dramatic by saying the 1%. I'm saying the percent of the people that are actually winning and doing what it takes to win. You want to mirror those people. And if it was so easy to win and get to the top and be a successful entrepreneur, don't you think everybody would be doing it? And again, Take social media out of your mind, because with social media, it is very helpful, but you have to change your perspective about social media as well, because there is a lot of cap. There is a lot of fraudulent behavior, but you can't allow that to keep you from finding the genuine, organic people, because that is going to help you understand that, wow, this really is possible. But when you think of social media like, oh, everything is cap or everything is fake, you're not going to get that feeling, because you're never going to want to pursue it, because you're going to think everything is cap, everything is fake. And this is coming from somebody who actually got free game off of social media, ended up taking it a step further, investing into a mentorship, and it literally changed my life. I got a new place, I got a new car, I got funding and leverage in order for my businesses. So it actually did change my life, but it took having discernment. It took being able to, number one, be aware of myself, my emotions, my intentions, my focus, being aware of the world, how they function, how they move, right? Being aware of God and connected to Him, your divinity, and having that discernment. So you know who's lying and who's telling the truth. But if you're not in alignment, you're not going to be able to tell. And that's why it's so important for you to be in alignment. And again, I always use this quote: Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt. You cannot hold yourself back trying to look back and see if other people are understanding, see if other people are grasping the concept, see if other people are evolving with you. This might be a lonely journey, right? And that is okay, because the people you meet along the way, they are going to be your lifetime people, because they are going to be the people that are in alignment with the version of you that you want to become. And sometimes the other thing that people from your past and like that chaotic environment will do is they will try to suppress you to that identity. Like when you try to show up as your new evolved self with more information, right? You're trying to give them the game with more, tenacity. You're trying to show them what, grit and working, intentionally can do, because I don't even like to say working hard, because you don't have to work hard to be successful. You really just need to be in alignment and be intentional, and you need patience, right? But what you don't need is kicking back into that old identity every time something gets hard for you. Being in survival mode, being in chaotic environments because they make you feel comfortable, and you don't feel good about going out and meeting new people, walking up to people, shaking their hands and saying, hello, I'm just, in the area today. I wanted to pitch, my new product to you. I wanted to tell you more about some things I've been learning about starting an online business, or et cetera, et cetera. Put yourself out there, get into new rooms, get into new circles, and it doesn't have to cost you anything. Only thing that it's going to cost you is that pride, that ego, right? So get into new rooms. God is saying, get into new rooms. He's opening doors for you, but you keep trying to go through the old doors. You keep going backwards instead of running towards what God is already showing you. But it's because you're stuck in that traumatic survival mindset. Your trauma has dimmed you. Now it's time for you to evolve out of that trauma, and you only evolve by doing something different. You have to make what you would usually do. Sometimes you might have to just do the opposite. For example, I usually always be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll make time. Like, I'm always like so quick to give my presence, my energy, and my time to people. But now the new thing that I'm doing, when people ask me things, I give myself 24 to 48 hours to think about it, right? So my first reaction is going to be, I'll let you know, or I'll see, let me check my calendar. I'm being more intentional with my time and energy, and really sitting down and analyzing whether or not this is really in alignment with the person that I want to become, because it's really crunch time, y'all. And I know a lot of my videos, I've been saying that, but that is because this new shift, this new energy, it is time for you to latch on to what you believe in and what God has been trying to tell you to do, because it is your time. It is your time. But living in a traumatic and survival mindset is not going to do anything but subtly continue to dim you. And then you're letting these vultures into your energy, and wondering why you keep having those little internal bouts of like depression, or I'm not doing enough, or why do I feel like this, is because you keep allowing your old mindset to intervene with what you're becoming, right? So anytime you're going back into them environments and you're exposing yourself to those demons, they're not going to do anything but continue to try to complete the plan. And the plan is to continue to delay you from your purpose. So every time you say yes, just understand that is a delay to your purpose. Every time you say yes to something you know darn well that you've outgrown, you've out-leveled, but you feel bad about telling somebody no, you're doing nothing but delaying your own progress. And we cannot afford to do that anymore. It's time to heal the trauma. It's time to understand more about neuroplasticity and what it means to rewire your own brain, because it's 100% possible. I'm doing it. The way that I used to look at things 5 years ago, I do not look at them that way anymore. Like, and if you go on my page and if you go down on my page, the video I just did about spiritual warfare was an excellent example of that. That was an excellent example of that, because even though people were provoking me and there was like a whole smear campaign, the anger internally that I used to feel, like that crash out energy, I didn't have that. Like, I had more of a concerned energy. I was genuinely concerned for the state of our people, for the state of the other women like me, and where their mind is at a time like this. I'm like, yo, do y'all know that it's crunch time? And y'all playing around, still doing the same stuff we did 10 years ago. Like, that was even a realization in itself. It showed me like, wow, even if, because I went into isolation. I was only focused on building my businesses, working, my kids, school, etc. So it was like a test, because if you really leveled up, it doesn't mean the absence of triggers, so now you're acting better. No, those triggers got to still be in the room, and you got to still be able to maintain that same nervous system regulation, right? So that taught me, when that when I got that trigger that smacked me, I'm like, wow, I'm doing better at this healing thing than I actually thought I was, because I really didn't feel that rage. I didn't feel that insanity. I didn't feel that like crash out energy. I felt more concerned, and I felt strong enough to share my story. Like, it just made me want to educate somebody else, because there had been so many different things that needed to be wrapped up and left behind, but I kept stringing it along and driving it along because of survival's guilt and because of the trauma that I've experienced. But due to those childhood wounds and me wanting to be loved, respected, and cherished, because I felt like I had to always perform in order to feel loved, cherished, and respected. Whenever I say no, it was like I felt like, I wouldn't be loved, cherished, and respected, when really is a lack of boundaries and somebody using manipulation because they know what kind of heart you have. And once those things started being revealed to me, I understood that I'd been operating in an old identity. I'd been operating under trauma. I'd been operating under chaos. I've been operating out of environments that I'd already outgrown. It doesn't make any sense to go back. Today's video is just to say, get out of those environments. It is paramount. Like, God keeps giving me this message. You know who you are. You know what God has been telling you. Yes, that person needs to be cut off. No, do not return. I don't care how many times they apologize. Do not go back to that environment. You already know that environment has evil energy there. You know that environment is waiting for you to slip. It's no point in you going there. You have nothing else to prove to and in that environment. Your work is to be done somewhere else. Just like God said in the Bible, go to a land. What is the verse? He says, go to a land that, nobody knows you, because a prophet is not respected in their own home. Let me look that up. Yeah, so Genesis 12, 1 through 2. where God tells Abram to leave his country for a new land, promising to make him a great nation, bless him, and make his name great. It marks the beginning of the covenant where Abram moves to Canaan, trusting in God's promise. You have to go to a new land. You have to get in new rooms. You have to get in new environments. You have to get around new people that will actually receive you as who God created you to be. Those old people, those old environments, that is nothing but familiar spirits and demons trying to hold you back from your purpose, especially if they are not in alignment with your godliness, your righteousness, the person you're trying to be, and what you're trying to do for the community, right? Those people are nothing but destiny. They're like not destiny swapping, because everybody talks about destiny swapping, but those are destiny stoppers, destiny hinderers, destiny delayers. They try to delay and stop your destiny, but that God already knew that would happen, right? He already knew that would happen. And even if, because I know some people don't believe in everything, religious, etc. But I do believe that a lot of the stuff in the Bible is very insightful. It is very good in order for you to have a structured way of living your life, becoming more righteous, getting closer to God, getting more into alignment with your divinity. Because just like with people in addiction, they have 12 steps, NA and AA. For people that are divine and spiritual, we have the Bible. We have our own set of, guidelines that we should be adhering by. And like God says, he gives you free will, right? He gives you free will. But this keeps you structured. So what are you going to do with your free will? That's the first one. You have to get away from those environments. It's paramount. That is the first thing you need to do. Get away from those environments. Become more aware of yourself. Set your intentions. Stay focused and stop allowing your trauma, your empathy and all of that to affect the way that you go out here and slay these demons. Because just because somebody is smiling and giving you compliments does not mean that they were not sent to destroy you. Again, you learned that in my witchcraft video. People could be smiling from ear to ear, your biggest supporter, your biggest fan. The whole time, they're just waiting for that opening. They're waiting for you to feel comfortable so that they can come in and destroy you. So it's so important to heal that trauma. And you heal that trauma by allowing for neuroplasticity. You cannot allow for neuroplasticity where your brain rewires itself so that you can have a new perspective and new insight on life. It'll even help you as far as regulating your nervous system. You can't do that until you experience new. You have to give your brain something to rewire around. How can you rewire around chaos, trauma, and, hate, envy, jealousy? You can't rewire around that. And if you can't get into the environment physically, I talked about this a little in my last video, it's up to you to put yourself there. So if you have to delete people off your social media, if you have to go through and mute people because you feel like they're too negative in the morning, it's really about first thing in the morning, setting your intentions, coming in with a great mind, coming in with gratitude, and setting your energy for the day. That your nervous system is regulated and you have that high frequency so that you can jump into aligned action. And that compounded over time is going to give you that new identity you've been looking for. And I'm going to wrap it up with this last verse. If you feel as though you were called to speak, teach, mentor, coach, help, you are not supposed to be doing that around the old environments and the old people that you've outgrown. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay, yes. So Mark 6:4, Jesus said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin and in his own house. So that shows you the people you've been around, the people that you keep trying to get to validate you and solidify you and stamp you in order for you to feel as though you're moving on the right path. Those are the wrong people that you should be looking for validation from. Really, you shouldn't look for validation from anybody, but from yourself, your inner self, and internally being honest and strict with yourself, and from God. That God already told you who you are. And I did videos about that. Go look at my old videos. I told you who God says you are. I did a whole segment on it. So that is the only belief you need to believe. Like, you don't have to try to convince anybody. I just want to sit on that realization because it was really a big one for me. Because I found myself wondering, like, the people from my hometown, when they weren't supporting me, I'm like, dang, I'm sitting up here changing my business 2, 3, 4, 5 times because the people that knew me wouldn't support me, not understanding that the reason why I really bloomed and grew and really started to get recognized was because I stopped pandering to the people that I knew, because I started to realize, wow, let me get in my Bible. Let me get closer to God. And God started bringing me to verses and realizations like these. That's why getting into alignment is so important. That is why really waking up, being in touch and in tune with yourself, no TV, no phone, that inner energy, letting God speak through you, letting God speak through your vessel, right? That is how you create a regulated nervous system. You create it for yourself because of all the programming. Even with the mass media, it doesn't necessarily have to be the people around you. Look at the mass media. Look at the scare tactics. Look at the attempts to get your nervous system all riled up. They want you in scarcity. They want you in fear, which is false evidence appearing real, right? But you can't allow that. When you're divine, you understand where this is going. You understand the reason for everything, for all of this stuff. And then you also understand why those people around you won't and can't support you. And there's always an anomaly. Some people may. Some people will tack on later on once you've already started to attract support and recognition from other people. They want to hop on the bandwagon. But that just shows you who they are. That shows you their mindset. That shows you where their mental health is. Don't take any of that stuff personal. And understand, Jesus said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin and in his own house. So stop trying to be a people pleaser. Stop not having boundaries. Like, stop saying yes. Say no and then think about it. And if you want to say yes after that, say yes. But do something different. You're not going to get a new life by doing the same things you've already done. You cannot operate in trauma. You cannot operate with a survival mindset and like scarcity and trying to latch on to every little thing. And that's the same way it's the same way with business. If you don't invest, you don't grow. You have to be willing, as soon as the money comes in, to put it back out into your business. It's the same thing. All of this teaches you the things that you need for leadership and to be an entrepreneur. It's more than just selling a product that's banging. Like, if it was that easy, everybody would be a successful entrepreneur. It's grit. It's integrity. It's recognition. It's networking. It's being intentional, dedicated, crazy. Like, there is so much more, but the person that you become in the process is what I love so much about entrepreneurship. And what I love about life, period. Whether you're an entrepreneur, you're career driven, no matter what it is, you need discernment. You need to get out of survival mode, and you need to get rid of that trauma. You need to allow for neuroplasticity so you can get level up, level to level to level. Your next level is going to come from a regulated nervous system. Your next level is going to come from saying no. Your next level is going to be not only creating boundaries, but sticking to them even when it's hard, even when they're pulling at your heartstrings. The next level and the next version of you is going to be somebody that recognizes familiar and monitoring spirits, doesn't react, but takes a mental note of it and moves accordingly. You don't always have to react. And that's one thing I'm learning too. Because when you react, you show that you're not as evolved as you think you are. You have to be able to take things on the chin sometimes and say, all right, bet. Now, I'm not one that says too much disrespect, because you might got one, maybe two. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna really do too much about that. Nah. But what I'm trying to say is, you cannot operate in that old identity anymore. It's time to let it go, okay? It's time to regulate that nervous system, and it's time to be intentional about your life. God will come in. God can only come in and be in a partnership with you. He cannot make things move. If he's showing you the way and you're not moving, he can't come and forcefully move you. I mean, he could, but he's not going to. Because he gave you free will. And with your free will, you should be wanting to get closer to God, closer to your inner divinity, and wanting to go out into the world and do what God put you here to do. You have a mission. You have a purpose. Stop allowing these external people to validate you. You've already been validated. Now it's just time for you to remember, okay? I love you so much. Have a wonderful, prosperous day. Mwah.
This day that God has given me, I'm not gonna waste this joy deep down inside me. I'm not gonna shake, been stressed for so long.